Recording? Alrighty. Okay, so first of all, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. My name is Kara Lara. I am the social media marketing manager with UMC. So I oversee our official UTRGV social media platforms. I also oversee our mascot page, and then we have our street team page, which is a group of students that also help manage the university brand through social media. On the call, I should have a few other team members from UMC with us as well. I know Christopher Cabello, he works directly with me and helps create all of our amazing video and social media content. He is our digital engagement coordinator. And I believe Jose Alex Garrido is also on the call, and he's our director for digital marketing and analytics. So he makes sure that all of our digital efforts translate into results and keeps track of that through analytics and tracking in various ways. So they may be helping with questions while I go through these slides. They may chime in from time to time with additional commentary, but just wanted to take a quick moment to introduce myself and a few of my colleagues. And so we'll kind of just jump right in. If questions do come through during the presentation, I'll try to take a few breaks to look over the questions and answer them as we go. But if not, we'll jump in and answer questions at the end. But as we get started, I'd like everybody to kind of drop in the chat where or what area of campus you're representing, what department, just to kind of get a better sense of who is joining today's presentation. So if you guys don't mind, maybe just sharing a few different areas that you guys represent. So I see OVAP, student rights and responsibilities, student involvement, student activities, financial aid, awesome, advising, UTRGV arts, alumni, student success, graduate recruitment, Gear Up, honors college, alumni advancement. Okay, we have a lot of people. This is awesome. I'm super excited. I'm super glad that everybody's here. We wanted to do things a little bit differently this summer, doing a series of 4 different smaller bite-sized trainings to kind of help you guys just reevaluate your efforts and start FY26 on the right foot. And so my goal with this presentation is to give you guys just a fresh perspective on social media, rethink your current approach, and see if you can take away any ideas from our slides today that you can take back to your team and implement with your current approach. I know oftentimes social media is like a duties as assigned task or responsibility that fall on our plates. And so I know that sometimes it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like I don't know where to start. I don't know how to get organized. But hopefully with this presentation, again, it'll give you some ideas. It'll give you a starting point and just give you some confidence to move forward in this upcoming school year. So let's jump in. So we're going to be focusing on why social media is more than just posting. It's not just about posting your flyer or just posting the video. There's a lot more behind it. We're going to talk about the community building aspect. We're going to talk about what kind of content drives engagement on social media, particularly with our college student demographic. And then we're going to talk about how do we organize our content ideas, how do we plan them out and make sure that we actually execute them as we move forward month to month. Okay, so like I mentioned, social media is all about community. It's all about bringing people together. It's not just a place to go and post and hope that the whole world is going to see it and the whole world is suddenly going to care. That's just not how it works. Social media thrives when you prioritize connection over just simply sharing information. So, I want us to kind of shift into a different mindset that maybe we've had in the past of just posting promotional or informational content. This is about creating a real connection with your audience. And the more connected your audience feels to you, the more likely they are going to engage with you. So if they are connected, they're gonna like your posts, they're gonna comment on your post, they're gonna save it, they're gonna share it, they're gonna interact with you more. And the more that they interact with you, that teaches Facebook and Instagram, it teaches the algorithms, show more of this content from this page to that person. Facebook and Instagram, their goal is to keep you there on that platform as long as possible. And so if you're interacting with, or if a user is interacting with your content, that teaches Facebook, that teaches Instagram, show more of this content to this user. And the cycle continues. So you really want to establish that connection so that they engage, and then that increases your visibility. This is kind of the community snowball that we really need to focus on. And so we're going to talk a little bit about why, or what are the motives of people using social media, particularly Gen Z. And so Gen Z is anybody who was born 1997 to, I believe, 2012. And so they're right now ages between 13 and 28. College students are mostly 18, 22, maybe a little bit older. So our college students fall in this demographic. I understand that maybe not everybody on this call is their target audience may not be college students, but some of these elements do apply, I think, to other generations, particularly these first two elements. And so motives for being on social media, entertainment. Gen Z turns to social media to be entertained. They want to take a break from their day-to-day life and enjoy things that are funny, things that are lighthearted, short videos, memes. They have their favorite brands or their favorite influencers that they follow. They really are just turning to social media to be entertained. So if it's not funny or relatable, visually eye-catching, they're most likely gonna just scroll past it. Another big motive is connection and community. Gen Z loves to be connected. They want to feel like they belong somewhere. And they do this very, very well online. The internet is so vast. There's so many places to get connected. There's so many places to find your little niche or your little community. And so they have done a really great job of being connected with others online in online spaces. So they want to connect with people who understand their experiences, their struggles, who share their interests. They want to be connected to brands that feel real and human. They don't want to engage with a brand that feels very distant or polished or disconnected. They're craving connection and they're craving community. They also value their self-expression and self-identity. And so they are very passionate about standing for what they believe in, whether that's personal preferences or those are social causes. They use social media as a way to be seen for who they really are. And they love connecting with others who are similar to them or are real and authentic in what they believe. And so it's important to keep these motives and these values in mind when crafting social media, because there's ways that our content can tap into some of these elements to strengthen our connection with our college students on social media. And so before we start posting anything, we need to ask ourselves, are we providing value? Why should someone care? Again, let's shift our mindset from using it as a promotional tool to a community building tool. The more you build that community, the stronger the trust is going to be, the more confidence your audience is going to have in you, and you're going to foster a stronger community. And again, the more connected they feel, the more they're going to engage with you. And now the more visible you are because you're training that algorithm, show this content to this person, or show this type of content to people similar to this person. And that's how you're really going to expand your visibility and expand your reach, is by providing that value. I like to compare it to the way we interact in real life. Um, we have to build relationships with people and build trust with people in real life before we start asking them for favors. You're not just going to be asking somebody that you just met for a ride to work because your car's in the shop, or you're not going to be asking them for help in moving into a new apartment if you just met this person. You're more likely to ask those questions to people that you already have a relationship with, people that you already have an established trust with. And so the same thing goes for social media and being online. You have to build that trust with your audience before you can ask them to take any action. They're not going to listen because you haven't established that connection. You haven't established that trust. Therefore, they're more likely not going to be paying attention when you ask them to sign up for this program or come to this event, because you haven't established that trust. And so, again, very similar to the way things operate in real life, we want to take them into an online space. And so, how do we win trust? Winning trust is by being authentic. Again, like in real life, the more genuine you are, the more real you are, the more likely somebody is going to trust you. But if you're always kind of like approaching people with this facade or this demeanor that doesn't feel very genuine, they're not going to trust you as much. And so, same thing applies for online. Just be real, be true to who you are. 91% of consumers, including students, are more likely to support brands that they perceive as authentic. And so, this is where we want to show people who you are and what you are all about. Don't just tell them. Don't tell them this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we offer. Because you can put all the flyers you want out into the world, but if you don't show them, this is what it looks like to be a part of this department, of this program, or this college. People are not ever really going to see that visual or make that connection or make that understanding. So I like to task people with thinking about what is the low-hanging fruit that is happening around us day to day. Those are the things that we need to be showcasing. Again, I know sometimes it feels overwhelming. I don't know where to start. Start here. What is happening around you on the day to day that you guys can capture and show your audience? This is who we are, and this is what you can be a part of. So that could be events, that could be labs or things happening in the classroom, projects, club activities, student organizations, volunteering, community work, celebrations, traditions. These are things that are going on around us all the time. But it's our responsibility to show the world this is who we are and this is how you can be a part of it. And so here's just a few examples of what that low-hanging fruit could look like. Again, showing people what does it look like to be in that classroom setting? What kind of things can I get involved in and how can I give back? These are just very simple, again, low-hanging fruit visuals that you can use to show people who you are and what you're all about. And so I've kind of put in some questions between the slides to give us, I guess, kind of that, I guess for you to take back and use as a reflection tool um, as to how are you being authentic. So you want to ask yourself, do our posts show real student experiences? Again, if they're not student experiences, do your posts show people who you are and what you're all about? Um, what is one real moment that you could capture this week? So, if you're doing it, if you're not doing it, ask yourself, what are those things that are taking place week to week that I can make sure to get a picture of or that I can document for future use? How can we show behind the scenes in a fresh new way? Maybe you guys are preparing for an upcoming event, or there's something that is being, I guess, programmed or built that are in the early stages. How can you kind of tease that with behind the scenes content to let people know, hey, we're working on this and it's coming soon, or it's coming your way soon? Showing them what is going on behind the scenes. And then lastly, which we'll talk a little bit more later in the presentation, is how can you empower students and staff to also capture these moments? So yes, there's a social media administrator that kind of wrangles all this together, but are you leaning into your students, to your staff, to the people that make up who you are in your department to also capture content and share that with you so that you can leverage it for your page? So these are some questions to kind of help get the wheels turning and get you moving in the right direction. The next thing we'll kind of talk about is, okay, so we've talked about authenticity, the low-hanging fruit, show, don't tell. That's kind of like your bare minimum, and it goes a long way. But how can we take it a step further? How can we drive that connection even deeper? And that's going to be through telling a story. So you can show people what you're all about, but finding a way to take it even deeper and tell a story about about who you are and what you're doing will make that connection even deeper. So, real stories, real people are going to make real connections. So, thinking about how can you frame your content around people and their stories. Stories that have that emotional spark that is going to connect with your audience, because we all have stories. We all have stories of growth. We've all overcome our own challenges. We all have had a mentor or a turning point in our lives. And so, how can we find those stories and highlight them so that others can connect with each other on that emotional level? And so, like I mentioned, these are just some of those narratives that you could look for: personal growth, overcoming challenges, cultural identity, lasting impact. What are those stories that you want to tell, and how can you find those stories? So these are just, again, some examples of what it looks like to tell a story or to bring in that personal human element, that human touch to your content. On the first one, this is a Mother's Day post. And instead of just saying Happy Mother's Day, it's showing a student who is in med school and is also raising her son at the same time. And so that's such a human story, it's very real, it's very authentic, and it's also celebrating something, it's celebrating all moms. And so this kind of just highlights her personal growth and her personal journey of being a mom and being a medical student with a rigorous academic schedule. And so this just humanizes the student and builds that connection with the audience in a different way that's not just Happy Mother's Day. It's really highlighting what it looks like and what it feels like to be a mom in her particular shoes. The second one is impact on others. So this is a post about our chess team coach, and it highlights what he's done and how he's contributed to their success over the last several years, leading them to 4 national titles, being named Chess College of the Year for 3 times in a row. It's just showing the impact and using a very authentic, just human photo of him to build that connection with the audience. And so this showcases impact. The other two, the one on the far right, cultural identity, this was, I believe, a short video put together by the International Student Services Office, and it's just like a quick testimonial about why she chose to be a part of UTRGV, and how she feels connected and how she feels she feels at home here, even though she may not be from here, she may be from a different country. She feels like this is home. And so just bringing attention to the diversity of our campus and showing that, even though we're different, we all have UTRGV in common. And then on this last one, this is kind of like a turning point for some of our students who received their white coat, which kind of signifies a turning point for them in their medical journey, where they are going to begin their medical journey and as a med student. And so this kind of just, it talks about their journey from where they were and where they are now and where they hope to go. So again, thinking about that personal story that we can tell to connect ourselves even deeper to our audience. Another tip when trying to tell a story is think about the caption and how can you go beyond just a generic social media caption that just kind of says it for what it is. Instead, how can you include a quote to bring that post to life a little bit more? So instead of saying Maria is a senior biology major, she came to the US when she was 10, and she will graduate next week. That's very factual. It's very, straightforward, fact of the matter. But if you look at the second one, this includes a quote directly from the student. So it says, "I never thought I'd make it this far," says Maria, a senior biology major who came to the US at age 10 without knowing English. Next week, she'll cross the stage as the first in her family to earn a college degree. This just gives it a lot more context, a lot more meat, and it personalizes it by using her own words to bring in the reader or to bring in the audience. And so I guess some of the questions again to take back and reflect on your storytelling efforts. You want to ask yourself, do your posts invite people in, or do they just scroll past? Are you focusing on emotion, or are you focusing on information? Do your stories reflect the full diversity of your department, of your area of campus? Or are you just sticking to kind of the 1 or 2 topics within your area that you just kind of always fall back to? Really think about how diverse your area of campus is and what you can do to highlight all of that diversity on social media. The third question is how do we find these stories? Who's in charge of sourcing those stories, and how can we make it easier to collect them? And this is where, it really takes collaborating with people in your department. It takes leaning in on faculty and staff and students, student organizations. What are the opportunities or the people in your department that are closest to these stories? But really leaning on each other to find out who are the people that we can highlight and where can we find them and how can we tell these stories? And then lastly, what's the most effective way to tell the story? Is it just using a quote graphic? Is it a photo? Is it a video? Is it a combination of photo and video in a carousel format? Is it something else? Is it just Instagram stories? But how do you want to tell this story? And so these are just some questions to take back and reflect on to see how you can better be a better storyteller on social media. I'm going to take a quick pause just to see if there's any questions so far about authenticity or storytelling before I jump into some of the upcoming slides. Okay, if there's no questions, I'm just going to go ahead and move forward. So we've touched on authenticity, being, true to yourself, show, don't tell. We've talked about taking that story, personalizing it, humanizing your brand, taking it a little bit deeper. And now we're going to talk about that collaborative aspect. And honestly, I feel like this is probably my favorite aspect of managing social media, and probably one of the most important parts is working with others to bring your content to life. It's really, really challenging for it to just fall on one individual. You really do need to lean on others around you to gain perspective, to get feedback, and to really find those hidden gems within your department. And so we're focusing kind of on that student collaboration, but this can apply really to any audience. So first and foremost, if we're focusing on students in this case, you want to ask them, what do they want? You want to get that feedback because they're the target audience. We're not the target audience. Our students are the target audience, and it's crucial that we get their feedback and that we get their input. So I like to recommend like focus groups or these feedback sessions that you can host with a small group of students. At least once a year. If you could do it twice a year, even better. More than that, great. But at minimum, try to get a group of students together at least once a year, where you're sitting down with them and you're asking them, what resonates with you off of this social media page? What what catches your attention? What catches your interest? What do you feel like we're missing? What do you think we could do better? And getting that honest feedback to make improvements. You also want to ask students about their own social media habits. What kind of content do they like to look at day to day? What kind of things catch their interest? What platform are they using the most? All of this feedback will help you craft your content to appeal to them better. So again, I think feedback sessions are great. Focus groups, if you can do them once a year, twice a year. But if you have student employees that are around your office day to day, run things by them from time to time. Get their opinion, get their input. Because again, they're the target audience and we really want to speak to them as well as we can. You can use polls, you can do Q&As, which I'll show some examples about as well to get some feedback. And like I mentioned, let them pitch their ideas, let them make some suggestions, get them involved in developing content ideas. Especially if you have student workers that you're able to leverage, really let them bring their ideas forward and develop these ideas so that again they're the demographic, right? So let them create and develop these ideas to go on your social media page. Student generated content. So if they're taking their own photos, if they're taking their own videos, why not use them for your page as well? You could do social media takeovers, student-led reels, and then there's leaning into trends, right? I think our students are most in tune with trends, trending audios, memes, and things like that. So leaning into them to see how those things can be incorporated into your social media content. And again, this is a collaborative effort. This takes back and forth. This takes listening. This takes learning. This takes idea sharing. But that is really how you get the best out of your content, is by doing this collaborative approach. Here's some examples of collaborative content from with students. The first one being user-generated content. So around commencement season, students are already taking their own graduation pictures, and they're taking their own photos with their families or with their graduation regalia. So we like to do a social media call out where we ask people to send us their photos, and then we feature them as our own post on social media. And so these are their own photos. And this is authentic as it gets. This is their own content. It's not a super polished photo shoot or anything like that. These are photos that they're submitting, real moments that they're sharing with us and that we get to share with our audience. So thinking about what are those user-generated posts that you could take advantage of and leverage for your page. On the second one, we have an Instagram takeover. And so these are also really, really great ways to give an inside look to what your department is all about, but directly from a student's perspective. And so identifying a student and sitting down with them, working with them to kind of set up some parameters for this takeover. But we've done this with several different departments where a student, takes over Instagram stories. So, these expire after 24 hours, but it's real time. They're showing you what it's like to come to class, be involved in XYZ, attend whatever event they may be a part of. So they're just showing you what it's like to be a student at UTRGV. In this particular example, we were following a medical student, and he walked us through what his day looked like as a med student. But it just gives you again, an authentic inside look to what it looks like to be a student here. This can also be used with student workers in your area as a way to not only showcase what your department is all about, but to answer questions that students might have. So we've done this with admissions, we've done this with parking and transportation, we've done this with housing, where we let a student take over for the day, and they kind of just walk us through their day to day, but are also answering questions to other students that may have questions about parking or about admissions. So it's it's an interactive opportunity as well. Humor and trends. I know this one scares people a lot. People feel like, how can we be funny, or how can we be silly if we're UTRGV? But again, I think leaning into our students to kind of find these ideas and then finding a tasteful way to do it is the key. And so this one was done by Academic Advising. It says, point of view, me after meeting with my advisor and making sure my classes are on track. And it's just this little meme of him dancing and kind of just being like hyped up in his own little world. And so it's very subtle. It's just kind of reminding you that academic advising is there to help you. They're there to keep you on track. And this is kind of how you're going to feel after you meet with them and get on track. And so there's little memes, there's little things like that that do have their place on social media, particularly on Instagram. But of course, you want to find that balance, right? You don't want to be completely goofy and silly all the time. You want to have an appropriate balance. But this just goes back to that authenticity, just being real, being friendly, letting people come to your page and just feeling like you're not super stiff or you're not super polished. You're just having fun on social media. And then the last one is using that student voice. Again, allowing a student to talk directly to the camera and walk us through whatever it may be that you want to highlight. But in this particular video, she was walking us through what it's like to live on campus. She went around to the different dorms and she was introducing the residents and getting a look at what their dorms were like. But it was her narrating this whole thing. It wasn't an RA. It wasn't a housing coordinator. These aren't pictures that show you, oh, this is what it looks like, and these are the amenities, and these are the square footage. This is just this. What you see is what you get. Come and look. Come and meet the people. Let's talk to them. Let's see what they have on their walls. But using that student voice to showcase what your area of campus is about. And so we talked about like user-generated content and getting that feedback. And so I'm going to skip to the next one to kind of show you a visual. But these are just some of the ways that you can either get participation from your audience or how you can get that feedback from your audience. So on the very first one, this is it's an Instagram story, but we used it with a link sticker, and that link sticker links to an interest form. And so the call out is, your journey could inspire others. Fill out this quick form for a chance to be featured on our social media. And so they click the link, it takes them to this form. And I believe Chris just dropped the form in the chat in case you guys want to take a look at it. But this is how you can get interest, right? Maybe there's those people that have those amazing stories that you're looking for, but you don't know where to find them. Doing a call out with an interest form is a good way to get some leads on these potential stories. You could post this link on an Instagram story. You could send it out in an email. You could have a QR code at a table. There's many different ways, but creating an interest form helps you streamline those stories and that potential interest to participate. On the second one, very similarly, so again, using Instagram stories, we used the question box and we asked, what moment at UTRGV proved that you were stronger than you thought? And so from there, people can write their responses and those responses go straight to your inbox. And from there, you can kind of take a look at some of these answers. And if you feel like there's a really good one or there's one that has potential, that's a lead. And that lead, you can go in and start messaging with them. We would love to hear more about your story. Please email us at this, or however you want to get in contact with them after that. But using these as opportunities to find those stories, to get ideas, and then make that connection with the student on the back end, and then create the content after the fact. On the third one, this is an Instagram story poll. So this one we're asking, what type of content would you prefer, do you prefer for us to post? So, it could be educational videos, live Q&A, photos, Instagram stories. I mean, you could put whatever options you want. You can ask them, do you prefer to hear about events, programming, internship opportunities, or student spotlights? And you could mix up these polls from time to time, but using these polls to kind of tell you, this is what people are more interested in. You could even do the question box again and say, what kind of content would you like to see from us? And just let people have their open-ended responses go to your inbox. And again, using that as a feedback tool to help educate yourself on what kind of stuff you guys should be focusing on moving forward. And then the last one is just a generic call out. These are the ones that we do again for commencement. We've done them for like study abroad. But we asked, are you traveling this summer? Take UTRGV with you. Email us at socialmedia@utrgv.edu to get some UTRGV merch for the perfect photo op. So we were asking people where were they traveling this summer. If you're going somewhere, send us an email. We'll give you some merchandise. You can take it with you. And then they went out and they took pictures, whether they were traveling abroad or whether they were going to, national parks, Disney World. And we were able to use those photos for our content. And so these are just some of the ways that we have solicited feedback and participation from our audience. And so again, some of the reflective questions that you can take back to ask yourself are we inviting students to participate in our content, or are we just expecting them to engage? What processes can we set up to make it easy for students to submit content? What student organizations or student leaders can we invite to collaborate with this semester? So if you have student orgs within your department that are doing programming, tap into those students, find out what kind of programming they're doing, see what kind of initiatives you can elevate to your department page. But using these as ways to collaborate, seeking that feedback, getting that input, and refining your strategy based off of that. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about how to keep engagement strong during slower periods like the summer. I know a lot of people feel like, oh, like summer is a lost cause. Everybody's checked out. Nobody's paying attention to us right now. So I'm just not going to post anything because I'll just post when they come back in August. And that's not necessarily the case. It's not that they're fully checked out. It's just that their mindset is it's in a different space. It is in summer mode, which means it's a little bit more laid back. They're looking for more relaxed, fun type of content. They're not really looking for that type of content that they're looking for during the school year. So I think it's embracing that seasonal shift and thinking outside the box. What are those things that we can feature that are a little bit more casual, a little bit more passive? Yes, engagement may be a little bit lower, but it doesn't mean that you should completely go silent for the entire summer, because you are training the algorithm that you're not posting anything, so they're not going to show you to anybody when you come back in August. You want to keep that consistency going, even during slow periods. So some of the things that you can showcase are just beautiful campus photos, office and lab tours. This is one that we haven't done, but I've seen other universities do it, and I think it's honestly very cool. I think we all know of one professor or one faculty staff member that has a very intricate office with very cool knickknacks, and they have a lot of stories around those items. And so doing an office tour with one of those faculty staff members or professors, and just humanizing them and personalizing who they are and showing a little bit of, again, this is like a behind the scenes look at something that maybe students don't get to see all the time, but showing what's in the office, what are those little stories that are gonna, again, make them a little bit more personal towards your audience. There's the study abroad aspect, but it doesn't even need to strictly be study abroad. It could be really any summer travel. Where are your students traveling during the summer? And kind of leaning into that and celebrating that on social media. So these are some examples of summer content. So the very first one is those campus views. Beautiful campus photos of an empty campus. It says campus feels different when no one is around. So school had just let out. Everyone's kind of gone, but we're showing these beautiful photos, and it just makes people feel connected even though they're not here. The second one, it says slams laptop shut until next semester. time for a well-deserved break. So again, this just plays into that we did it. Summer's here. We finished the semester. Time for a break. So leaning into that and using photos from our students, using photos from campus, and just kind of embracing that transition from the end of the semester into summer. We talked about the summer travel or study abroad photos. This is also another user-generated content opportunity because it's very unlikely that they're going to send you to go to every single study abroad trip or to go on vacation with all the students. But how can you collect these photos? Because these are awesome photos. These are they're candid, they're authentic, they're real experiences. And so how can you collect either study abroad or just general summer travel photos? Maybe a student is doing an awesome internship somewhere. Collecting those photos of what our students, what our staff is up to in the summertime and sharing that on social media. And then the last example I have here is while most of our students are checked out or less engaged in the summer, um, there is a small exception for our incoming freshmen. They're a little bit more tuned in because they are anxious about what they're about to walk into for the upcoming school semester. So thinking about what kind of content that is geared specifically for incoming students, um, summer is the perfect time to take advantage of that particular audience because they're tuned in, their parents are usually tuned in. They want to make sure that they are ready for that first semester here at UTRGV. So this video was advice for freshmen. And usually we've seen that the first year kind of content in the summer, it does pretty well because they're excited. Also, they're excited to be a part of it. Okay, so a lot of great ideas, right? Authenticity, show don't tell, storytelling, collaboration, a lot of great ideas, and all really important aspects of a strong, engaging social media strategy. But all of these ideas, these great ideas, they need to have a great and a solid plan. I cannot stress the importance of having a clear roadmap for organizing your ideas into action. Um, I know, again, a lot of times it feels like I don't know where to start, but approaching your social media day to day, week to week, it really is not it's not conducive for the long term. You are going to burn yourself out much quicker if you are constantly, what am I going to do next? What is next? What's happening? What should I post tomorrow? Because you're more likely to neglect social media at that point if you don't have a clear roadmap for at least the next month ahead. So it takes a little bit of legwork on the front end. It takes a little bit of organization on the front end. But once you've established that foundation, it really makes it so much easier month to month in executing your content than scrambling for ideas on the regular. So we're going to kind of take it a step back. We have great ideas, but how do we organize those ideas? So I always like to recommend organizing your ideas into categories or just taking a full step back and asking yourself, what are those main themes or those overarching topics that represent our department, that represent who we are? Um, there's no set number for this. It could be as little or as many as you see fit. But what are those big buckets that represent who you are? And I like to kind of think of this as your menu. This really is your foundation. Setting those categories or buckets, and then filling each bucket with ideas. And the ideas can all be different. So For bucket one, academic programs, you can highlight the different courses, majors, educational opportunities, which could be like internships or study abroad, any type of experiential learning. So filling those buckets with your different ideas, but starting with what are those themes, and then what are the little ideas that you can put in each category. Once you have created this menu, you've jotted down, okay, this is what we're about. These are the sub items within each category. Then you can take that and start to plug it into a calendar. You can say, okay, on Mondays, I'm going to highlight an academic program. And then on Wednesdays, I'm going to do a student spotlight. And I'm going to do that every other week. Following week, I'm going to do campus event Monday, and then I'm going to do career and alumni on Wednesday. There's no perfect rhythm to this. It's whatever's going to work for you. Again, looking at that menu and saying, okay, I'm going to pull from here and I'm going to plug it into here. I'd say less is more, especially if you're just getting started. I wouldn't recommend trying to post something every single day. I would just say start with one post a week, get consistent at that, and then you can start to layer in more and more content. But start with your categories, start with your menu, and then from there you can take that menu and start to plug it in to an actual calendar. And so when you're plugging into a calendar, these are some questions that you may want to ask yourself when organizing your content and planning. So first and foremost, based off our menu, what are some new ideas we want to try this month? You might want to highlight one or two things, stick it in the calendar. What key events are happening? What holidays are happening? What deadlines do we need to cover? What are just those things that you know are going to happen no matter what? Stick those onto the calendar. Those are already fixed, they're concrete. Then you need to ask yourself, okay, I have everything plugged in. Now I need to ask myself, what does each content need to look like? Is this going to be a photo? Is this going to be a video? Is it going to be a graphic? Is it going to be a written story? Or is it just going to be Instagram stories? And assigning what each piece of content is going to look like. And then you got to ask yourself, okay, based on this, what resources do we need to make it happen? Who's going to be involved in this? What contacts do I need to make? Do I have the right equipment? Do I have enough time spaced out in my day to dedicate to executing this content to make it happen? Similarly, who's going to be responsible for capturing the photos or getting the interviews? What processes need to be implemented, particularly to collect user-generated content or an interest form? If there's any processes that need to be implemented, what are they and who is going to be responsible for implementing them? And then lastly, have you allocated enough time for content review, approvals, or any adjustments that might need to be made before publishing them? So it's always, I mean, it is crucial to get a second pair of eyes on that post before it goes live. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We may not see things that other people see. So really, really encourage you, don't hit publish until you get a second pair of eyes on that post. Because the last thing you want to do is post something with incorrect information, a typo, maybe there's something in the background of a photo that you didn't catch, that somebody else might see. So I highly recommend, yes, create that time for review. So again, you have your menu, and then you take that menu and you plug it into a calendar and ask yourself these questions before you move forward with the execution. So using a calendar, it creates that consistency. Consistency is key. Like I mentioned, less is more. Don't feel like you have to post something every single day. Again, that is going to lead to burnout. What is manageable for your team, for yourself, for your department, based on the resources you have available, based on the time you have available? Create a consistency that is going to work for you. Use that calendar to assign roles, to assign deadlines, and be very clear on who's going to be responsible for what. And then, this helps you avoid last minute scrambles and burnout. If you're constantly asking, what am I going to post? What am I going to post? What's happening tomorrow? You want to have foresight. This calendar is to help you have foresight for what is to come and to manage yourself a little bit better. So now we're going to talk about setting the right goals. So we've talked about great ideas. We've talked about organizing those ideas and making sure that you have the right resources available to execute them. But now we're going to talk a little bit about how do you know if you were successful on social media? I want to kind of go back to some of the earlier slides that I mentioned about social media being a community building tool. I know sometimes maybe our leadership or people that aren't on social media as regularly sometimes think that if you post it on social media, it's going to go viral and everyone is going to know about our event and everyone is going to come to our event. So we want to have social media to increase our attendance or to increase our enrollment numbers. But the truth, like the reality is that is a very hard correlation to make. You can't directly correlate event attendance to a specific social media post. So say there was 300 people at an event. Not unless you ask every person, how did you find out about this event? And if they all said, oh, because of this post, then sure, you have made a direct correlation. But it's very unlikely that you're going to ask every single student how they heard about your event or why they enrolled in a certain program or class. So I would try to avoid using social media as a tool to directly correlate to those types of hard to measure goals. Indirectly, yes, social media may have an influence on them, but that's being realistic. A better way to think about your social media goals and your social media success is by saying, I want to increase awareness of this event or program. Because you can measure awareness. You can measure how many people are seeing your post compared to perhaps last year. You can measure awareness, but you can't measure that because they saw this post they went to your event unless you're really asking them or unless you're putting paid advertising dollars behind that post and you can track it directly. But this is more for organic social media. And so I guess I just wanted to reiterate, it's a community building tool. It is not a direct conversion tool. And so putting those realistic expectations forward as setting the right goals. So again, increasing awareness or reaching more students. Those are more realistic goals and metrics that will tell you whether or not your social media post or posts were successful. And so these are just some examples of metrics. And next Thursday, we'll be diving a little bit more into these metrics themselves, where to find them, how to keep track of them, and how to set goals and how to keep track of your success. But these are the types of numbers that will indicate whether or not you are being successful on social media. Not necessarily event attendance, not necessarily program enrollment. Well, yes, those numbers are important and we can assume that social media has an influence on them. It's very hard to say that they are directly aligned. But these are the numbers that you can say, yes, because of my efforts on social media, we increased our followers by this much. Because my efforts on social media, we were able to get this many views on this post, or we were able to reach a minimum of this many people in this period of time. We were able to track the engagement. We were able to track the number of likes, comments, and shares, again, during a specific period. So I want you guys to lean into these numbers as a way to determine whether or not your social media content is performing well or not. These are clear indicators of your performance and of your success. And you always want to be slowly increasing, I would say, year after year. I say look at these numbers on a monthly basis, but definitely year to year, you want to really push yourself to that next threshold. And so I'm just going to touch a little bit on the follower growth and how important this is. This is very important because if you're not bringing in people to your page, if you're not actively promoting your social media, then all of your efforts are really not going as far as they could. They're kind of just falling flat with the same people that are already following you, but you want to always bring in more people. And so thinking about those touch points that you have at events, emails, marketing materials, even just face-to-face interactions, what are those opportunities you have to promote your social media and to advocate for your page and to build that audience, build that community, and build that connection with them? I would say it's really important. And then again, measuring how many people are seeing your content in a period of time, that's how you can measure awareness about an event or awareness about something specific that you're promoting. But like I mentioned, next Thursday, I'll talk a little bit more about these numbers. We'll go a little bit deeper into this a little bit further. But to wrap everything up, I would say the key takeaway of this presentation is to have that human first approach. Human first approach is going to create long-term engagement. Rethinking the approach of social media from being a promotional tool to a community building tool, because once you have their trust, once you have that relationship, they're going to be more likely to be receptive to anything that you ask them to be a part of or ask them to take action on. And so relatable, intentional, student-centered, take advantage of your students. I mean, I think it's incredible that, there are our primary target audience and we have such great access to them. So leaning into their perspectives, leaning into their ideas and bringing them to life to bring who you are as a department to life to our students as well. So yeah, I think that wraps up today's presentation. I will stick around for any questions, any comments about this, any challenges that maybe you guys are facing in your area of campus when it comes to social media, something that you would like to learn a little bit more about. If there's no questions, you can always reach us at social media at utrgv.edu. I don't think I see any hands raised at this time. But yes, feel free to reach out to us at any time. I know every department kind of has a unique scenario, unique needs, and unique audience. But we're here to help you kind of talk through them and find out what opportunities you have based on the resources you have available. And I look forward to seeing what you guys do. I hope that this was useful. I hope that you can take this back to your team and again use it as a moment to reflect and a moment to reevaluate your efforts and move into the next fiscal year stronger. I will stick around if anybody has any questions. If not, you can reach us at this email, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you, guys. And yes, this was recorded, so I will send it out, if not later today, either tomorrow or early next week.
Hi, Kara. I have a question. This is Diana with the Counseling Center. Can you hear me?
Hi, Diana. Yes, of course.
Okay, great. I don't know if this will be covered later on throughout the series, but I wanted to, and I feel so outdated asking this question, but I've been trying to set up an automated message from our Instagram. Sometimes we get um,
Mhm.
questions there, and because of the nature of what we do, it's important that we refer students, to contact our office or to contact, the crisis line if it's an emergency or something like that. So I was wondering if that's going to be covered later on.
Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and be touching on it next week, because we're gonna go over next week Meta Business Suite. And so that is kind of Facebook, Instagram integration. And there is a way to set up automated messages on the back end for that. And I'm glad you brought it up because that is something that I would like to recommend to departments since we're not always maybe available to answer questions. I mean, we're doing a million different things. And so I know sometimes students prefer to reach out to us directly through Instagram with questions, but we're not always immediately available to answer. So setting up an automated message kind of helps them understand that um, it provides an immediate response and lets them know that we will either respond to them as soon as we can, or that they can contact us at an email address um, for quicker response. There's also like we include like emergency contacts in case it's an emergency because like you mentioned, they may be needing immediate help. And if we're not available, we want to make sure that we're including those resources and those contact numbers so that if they do need immediate assistance, they're already getting pointed in the right direction. So yes, we can talk about automated messaging next week, or I can definitely set up time to help set it up with you as well.
Yeah, because I thought it was simpler. I went in and I got all confused with all the Meta Business Suite, so I was like, I better ask.
It can be clunky. I know things can be clunky, but yes, we can definitely help you with that. And I mean, that's what we're here for.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the
Yes.
presentation.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay. Well, I'm gonna hang back. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to hang back. But if not, enjoy the rest of your afternoon and have a great weekend. It's early Friday, so.